What's going on, guys? It's Rob with Animus Visual. Today I am at the Laowa Cine booth with my friend Steven.
Yeah.
Steven, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you going?
I'm doing really good. I am very excited to show off all of these new lenses and then some. Laowa has some really cool options that have been announced right for NAB. So we're gonna go ahead and let Steven take it away because there's a lot of options.
So first we're gonna start wide, right? So we've got a wide cine set. So not just a single wide cine lens, or like it's a full set of cine wides, starting at 9mm. So 9mm, 10mm. We've got a new 12mm, right? The 12mm was sort of our first ultra wide, and one of the reasons that we are in cine today, right? The probe lens and the 12mm.
Right.
Those are the two things that brought Laowa to the cine world. So we've got a new version of the 12mm. We've got a 14mm cine housed. We've got our cine shift lenses, a 15 and a 20mm that we've rehoused for cine at this point. And then the 10mm in our autofocus we've been showing for a bit, super popular. And then we're even showing some stuff that's not officially announced yet. So I've got one of my favorites. It's a full frame fisheye zoom. Nothing official on it yet, but we should see an announcement in the next month or two.
Very exciting news. I want to get into the specs of some of these lenses. So as soon as these got announced, I personally was looking at them. I recently purchased an Alexa Mini, which, as we know, is Super 35, and it's I'd hate to call it a challenge to get super wide on the Super 35 sensor, but there's not a lot of options besides, like, actually your guys' 12 is what I was planning on using, and I have an EF mount, which wasn't gonna work, so I was like, all right, maybe I'll just buy the PL version. And right as I'm about to pull the trigger on that, boom, all of these options. So
yes.
With that in mind, right, as somebody who might be looking for an ultra wide look, these all cover VistaVision except for a few.
The fisheye isn't going to cover VistaVision, but everything else here, 9, 10, 12, 14, the shifts even more so, right? The shift lenses, the image circle on those unshifted will cover a 65. So.
Okay, major. What about, I wanted to ask specifically, right? Version 1 versus version 2 of the 12. Now that I'm kind of in the market for it, what would you say is any difference between those two?
The biggest differential, I have not had my hands on to play with the new 12 yet to see what kind of the flare looks like,
sure.
what it is. But it's a little bit cleaner, physically much smaller. It goes to a much smaller housing, a little bit more in line with the rest of the lenses.
New wide set.
The wide set, right? So it's a 77mm filter thread, 80mm outer diameter, where with the older 12, it was pushing.
I think it's 95 outer, right?
It adds this big, right? You can even see this big
petal lip there to it
on the outside to make it fit a more standard matte box, but it doesn't fit with the rest of our lenses. And we've tried to sort of standardize around that 77mm filter thread, 80mm outer diameter on a good percentage of our lenses at this point.
Yeah, which is super convenient because as we all know, sometimes matte boxes look cool and all that, but that's one more thing you have to carry around, filters, etc. So being able to quickly screw on a filter that you got or adapt some kind of filter to it is massive.
And just being able to swap from one lens to the other without having, I got to put this adapter clip and this ring on there to work with this lens and that. No, everything is standardized as long as you're set up to go on that 80mm outer diameter. Just swap lens to lens.
And then as far as f-stop, obviously these are varying f-stops between the different lenses. So my first opinion was saying, okay, I want super wide on a Super 35, let's go with a 9. But then I had a little pause because we have a 5.8? Is it 5.8?
Is a 5.9, T5.9.
T5.9 on the 9mm. The 10, we have a 2.9, but I believe this is not a, go ahead.
Not available in PL mount.
That was my issue. I was like, no. So I couldn't buy it for arri, unfortunately. Yes. So my next option then became the 12. Right, and now the 12 is new and improved, and it has some kind of life improvement upgrades there that I would definitely consider as a viable option. 14 is now, I mean, a lot of lenses in that space. What would you say then separates a 14 here versus a lot of other 14 millimeter options from other manufacturers?
I mean, it's a T2.6, not as, I mean, there are other faster out there. It's probably just going to be the zero distortion, good, clean, sharp. I played with this lens as a like this optic as a DSLR optic, and I really enjoy it. It's just it was launched too late to fill out the DSLR world, but as a cine optic, PL mount, everything, it works pretty well.
Yeah, I also see it's like pretty small, which, I mean, considering a lot of people are trying to downsize the rig and everything, especially for travel, looks like a really good option. And then we have, this is a 15 shift.
Yep.
Tell us a little more about the shift.
So 15 millimeter and 20 millimeter shift lenses. The idea is that they're just producing giant image circles. And so you can move that image circle around your sensor to adjust perspective, right? So if we think of looking way up at a big tall building, the top of the building is way far away, you're going to get a keystoning effect. So if we reposition the camera and just shift up, so we're getting the top of that image circle, we can correct that keystoning and get the perspective realigned so that everything sort of lines up nice and square.
This is, I mean, such a really interesting set. However, now that you're telling us a little more about the secret lens that has not been officially announced, I do want to kind of go in on that as far as you can and know to this point, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This right here is the 8 to 15 zoom fisheye, and maybe the fisheye itself doesn't necessarily sell everybody up front like, okay, maybe I don't need that. However, this lens has a very unique feature as described, so I want him to go in depth as to what the zoom function does.
So with the zoom fisheye, so it's at 8 millimeter, you have a 24 millimeter image circle. So that means on a full frame sensor, you're going to have the full circle showing up onto your sensor. Then when you zoom in to 15 millimeters, you're covering the full frame sensor, but you still have a 180 degree field of view from corner to corner.
So you'll get that cool warped effect fisheye look, but you won't actually see the full edges like a circle around it. But you can by zooming down to 8 mil, which is pretty cool. What is the f-stop on this, or t-stop?
T2.9. The photo version is going to be an f2.8.
Got it. Okay, so this is Cine version, and it is available in PL mount.
Is available in PL mount, right there.
That is awesome.
It is. You're not going to be putting that onto any filtered PL mount adapters or anything, because it's thinking that rear element comes way into the back of the lens.
Yeah,
but
definitely makes a lot of sense. Do you have any pricing information on this preliminarily?
I don't have any pricing on this guy yet.
Okay. TBD, guys, but very cool option from Laowa. I will leave all the pricing stuff for all these because it's a lot of them and I'm not going to go through every single one. Let's talk about the probes.
Let's go over and talk about the probe zooms, absolutely.
So tell us what we got here.
So the regular Laowa probe lens is a 24 millimeter. The original is a T14. Then you go to a T8. About a year and a half ago, we launched that one. So there's, the idea of that wide angle field of view, but you're able to get into all the way down to a 2:1 macro. So what this adds, the zoom aspect, so one, just the idea of having a 15 millimeter on that probe perspective is really cool. But the idea that you can now zoom it and allows me to do a dolly zoom
in a macro.
Right? I just did a full dolly zoom in not even a 3-inch movement.
That's incredible. So we have a few options, right? Because these are designed to have switchable front element.
So we've got two different zoom elements. So that's the rear of it. You've got either 15 to 24, and that one's a T8, or 15 to 35 is a T12. The front tubes are interchangeable between each zoom range, and then there are going to be 4 different front tube options available, from the direct view, a 35 degree tip, a periscope where it goes down but the image plane is still aligned, and then a periscope where it's a straight 90 degrees, so it comes out and then just looks right to the side at 90 degrees. And those are all 4 of those tubes are compatible
with each of the zoom barrels, basically. question for me, because you mentioned that periscope thing twice, so now I'm curious, what is the difference between those two? In my head, right, I see the periscope being where it's 90 degrees in any direction parallel to your...
So the periscope is made up of two 45 degrees. So you come out of the lens, or out of the camera, it bends 45 degrees, and so it offsets and then bends 45 again. So the image plane is still aligned, it's just offset. So the front of your lens is over here, looking here, but the camera is here.
So it's like an L shape?
It's an L shape, and then I can angle up, and I can
rotate around, yeah.
pour liquid, I can do full rotation, and just the idea of getting into more obscure, harder to reach places. Yeah, the 90 degree is just a straight all the way out, but then at the very end, hooks 90 degrees. And so that is more about that rotation, right? If we go in and we're rotating just a simple, and the rotation will be on the front of the lens, and just one simple rotation, and you're seeing a full all the way around. Whereas the periscope, it's a much larger arm that has to move around, where here it's just spinning.
So on that periscope lens, you can rotate the entire contraption around to kind of get it into a tighter space, possibly, and where your camera can't physically go because it's too large.
To do up angle into I've seen some B-roll up into a car, like a car up on a lift, and underneath it, and you're just going with the periscope up inside the under of the car. So there's all kinds of okay, I couldn't really get my camera and everything up there, but
I can get a lens
tip. If the camera's here and the lens tip goes up, I can put it in. So.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because it creates an opportunity to get very unique shots, which I feel like that's kind of the trend that the industry's moving in. Very unique angles and
Yeah, unique and different. Like when we see things that we're not used to seeing, they jump out, they stand out. So I talk about the shift lenses, right? That the idea of that perfectly squared off building, everything's nice and angular. That's not how, when we go up to a building and you look at it, that's not how it actually looks.
Yeah.
So that when we've corrected it in camera, it's how we think of it. We think of the building square, but when we actually see it, it's not. And so then when you see a picture or an image of it that is corrected, it's like you do that double take and you come into it. And so, yeah, I mean, certainly story and composition are the most critical, but if you can bring in
some flavor,
some little bit different, you can draw some more eyeballs.
Yeah. Another question, right, on the probe specifically, because now there's been a few iterations of the probe lens, right? We had T14 on the original. I've noticed, though, there has been a change in barrel size to accommodate for the faster f-stop.
To get that light in there, you need a larger tube. So to go to the T8 or now the T12 with the long zoom range, it is a little bit over an inch diameter on the new tubes. So it is a little bit bigger, but certainly the length, you're still able to get into fairly obscure areas.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. Ultimately, you have a very small lens anyway to get into those macro tight spaces. But something to consider for sure for those that need an extra small area to go into, or it's going in between things. But it looks super interesting in this specific way. So
yeah.
Talk about pricing.
Let me get it.
Yeah, go ahead. Get her vacuuming. Talking.
Get the B-roll in there. Yes. We'll get that cut. Pricing. Probe lenses just sort of continue to tier as you gain features from $1,500 from that base probe lens. The first periscope is like $22. Yeah. Then you go to the T8 at $2,800, and then now these guys for the shorter zoom range is going to be $3,500, and the longer, the 15 to 35, is going to be $39.99, so $4,000.
And that's just the barrel piece, right?
That's gonna be the zoom and the direct barrel.
Oh, okay. So it comes with a direct barrel.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
Yep.
So then from there you can accessorize.
You can add. Oh, do you want the other zoom? Do you want other barrels?
That's kind of nice because it allows you to own one base if you
Yeah.
wanted to, instead of buying a
Yeah.
set, because I know that's how they come.
I'm sure we will package
Set, yeah.
a couple different variations in the sets, but I really like that it is interchangeable between the two zooms. So if you have a direct view and if you have a periscope, if you need a T8, you can go that direction. Personally, I'm going with the longer zoom, that 15 to 35.
Yeah, I think it's hard to wrap your head around a zoom probe macro because it's like, what even is that? So I'm like blown away by Laowa's innovation with the new lenses. It's like this was already a very niche product brought to a very like smaller audience, if you will, like with reachable, right?
Yeah.
Price wise.
Yeah.
Because like we know periscope and probe lenses have been around, but in a
They've existed. There's two issues with the history of this style probe lens. Or one is cost, right? Traditionally relatively expensive, but also functionality, right? When you get into these systems where the T8 the zoom it's starting to get into where there are different backs and different tubes, but a lot of the others it goes into an extreme of the different image sensor size and the different focal lengths that you want, and you're mixing and matching. Whereas the Laowa probes, it's still a lens to begin with, so you can hand it off to First AC, they can say, rig it up, they can figure out what's going on. Whereas some of those other scope kits, if you don't have somebody that knows what they're doing, it can get complicated.
So yeah, that's exactly the point I was trying to make. Thank you for bringing that down. The other piece though is ultimately how accessible these are now. And price has increased, but there's a lot of flexibility now with a zoom, and it's not just a macro lens, right? Like it is macro capable, but you can still use it as just like a regular lens to do other interesting shots that could involve potentially small spaces, but doesn't have to.
Yeah. At this point, every rental house I've been into in the last 3 years has a probe lens. If it's the original Cine, if it's the periscope, more and more now do have the T8s. And then starting Q3, when this guy ships, I imagine the rental opportunities will be readily available for this guy.
What mounts are these available in?
Native is PL. It's going to be PL native, but there are going to be different mounts. I haven't gone into how that's going to work, if it's a swappable mount.
I see.
Or if it's a separate tube, or a separate rear element. Because with the T8, it's a separate rear element. Each rear element you don't swap the mount itself. So I actually don't know. That's a
good question.
That's a good question that will get answered in the next
iteration.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for additional information, obviously, on all these lenses. This is very preliminary. This is NAB 2025 coming out with the earliest news. So
yeah, there may be changes, certainly the unreleased stuff, but the probe we are announcing, I don't know the detail of how the mechanism on the back is going to work. There will be different mounts. I'm just not sure which way it's going to go.
So that information would be forthcoming.
We'll have to get that.
Does this, by the way, is this an accessory you guys sell additionally? Does it come with the lens at all? The barrel?
It's an accessory that's come separate. We worked with Nitsi on that one.
Oh, cool.
Another manufacturer to make it for us.
That's a third-party accessory.
That's a third-party accessory, but
it's
made specifically for the Laowa probe.
Very cool. I'm loving to see the collaboration between the different companies to make things that we all could really use and need. So
absolutely.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. Again,
Thank
guys,
you.
This is Rob with Animus Visual, and this is the Laowa booth at NAB 2025. Checking out.